Shalom. I'm gonna get straight into this lesson, but I'm gonna get into this video that's gonna be going into, some of you brothers and you sisters probably never heard of this, but this is the tour. This the Museum of the Bible in Washington D.C. So this was pretty heavy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of you, brothers and sisters probably never heard of this. Let me show you what this is first. All right, give me 1 second. All right, so I'm gonna get into this real quick, and then I'm gonna get into this figure of speech. Before I get into this, rather, you only know, we first go into the psychology part. You only know what you've been taught, and I'm gonna take it a step further. You only know what you've been, what you've seen. I'm gonna make it make sense to you. So you only know what you've been taught, which is true, and you only know what you have saw. What does that mean? So I'm gonna make it make sense. First off, let me read this. It says the Museum of the Bible is a private museum located in Washington, D.C. that showcases the history, narrative, I want you to remember that word, and impact of the Bible through interactive exhibits, artifacts, and digital resources. So I'm going to leave it at that. So let's get into the psychology of this. So it says, number one, I'm reading from Chat GBT. It says, number one, why is it it says, why is it true that you only know what you have seen? And what I'm going with this is these images. Every time you saw the Bible portrayed, every time you saw the characters out of the Bible portrayed, they was all so-called white people. What does that do to your psyche? So get into it. It says, number one, it says, what is true that you only know what you have seen? That touches on human knowledge and experience. We learn through our senses, sight, hearing, touch, etc., Salakia. What you know firsthand usually comes from what you personally seen or experienced. However, humans also know things we haven't directly seen because we trust in testimony, books, you hear that? Traditions. Okay, right here. Salakia. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let's get more into this. It says, you only know what you have seen. If someone grows up only ever seeing whitewashed images, paintings, statues, stained glass, and church art, they know or assume that what biblical people look like. You hear this? The image becomes their reality. Boy, that is heavy. It says images as weapons. Those betrayals are a weapon, not in the sense of a literal knife, but a psychological and cultural weapon. By repeatedly showing white versions of biblical figures, institutions shape how people thought about God, thought about holiness, and thought about authority. It enforced racial hierarchies by putting so-called whiteness as at the center of the sacred. Check this out. So when European, which are Edomites, powers promoted whitewashed religious art, it wasn't just art, it was a weapon of colonialization and control, shaping how people across the world saw themselves in relation to God, Yahweh. So let's go here. So when I saw this video, I was like, the spirit just allowed me to put this lesson together. So I'm gonna go into this short video in 1 second. Right, so I'm gonna get into this video. So this is when indoctrination starts when you're very young, because that's gonna mold how you see reality. Check this out.
But also you can have touch tables where you can learn, you can read, you can actually walk around with headphones and go on a tour. So there really is something for everyone and every different learner style. And there's a children's area too, so they can take a break and go and play on these rides that are Bible themed. The point is, we want
Look at that.
everybody, regardless of your knowledge level of the
Look at
Bible,
it.
to learn something.
This is what's in 95% of the people's minds. So I'm going to read this again, then I'm going to get in deep into this lesson. So let's go back. You're not going to be able to see it because I'm on my other phone. Right? So check this out. You only know what you have seen. If someone grows up, they target this towards children's minds. Your mind was targeted. If someone grows up only ever seeing whitewashed paintings, statues, stained glasses, and church art, they know or assume that what biblical people look like. The image becomes their reality. Let's get into this.
New. This book is the best-selling book of all time, and it's the most controversial book of all time. I wonder why that is, and explore for yourself. Ken, as the leader, as the CEO of the Museum of the Bible, what's your vision, your hope for its success in the future?
But you get it, the so-called white man is the devil. They have took in our culture. They actually took a Bible about the people, took a book about the people, manuscripts, right, and profited. They profited off our own culture. They don't believe in the Bible. They use the Bible as a war trophy. They don't even know how to break it down. They don't understand it. They just know the Christianity catchphrases and punchlines that you Christians say. So let's get into this lesson. Let's get more into it. And that's that Isaiah 47:12. Keep coming around. The multitude of thine enchantments. So the average American, just the average person in the world, has been enchanted with this artwork. They've been enchanted with white Jesus, so-called. They've been enchanted that all this whitewashing of history, the artifacts, the statues, the artwork, the books, they've whitewashed everything, and that's that witchcraft that's on most people's mind to this very day. And number one, European cultural dominance. When Christianity spread into Europe, which is so-called Europe, especially Rome, Europeans, Edomites, began depicting biblical figures in their own image. That's what you see today. It saturated this whole earth. Artists painted Jivas, Mary, Moses, and other with European features, pale skin, long hair, which is very effeminate for a man. That's not our culture. And European clothing. Not because they thought that it was historically accurate, but because people usually imagine holy figures to look like themselves. Let's keep going. It says, number two, colonialism and white supremacy, so-called. During the colonial period, portraying Israelites, prophets, and Jivas, which his true name is Yahweh, as so-called white, it says reinforced the idea that so-called Europeans, Edomites, were the chosen people and closer to God. That's that enchantment, that's that witchcraft, that's that magic that's on the people's minds. It justifies slavery, conquest, and dominate the domination of so-called European peoples by suggesting biblical authority was on their side. Let's keep going. Number three, this is a heavy point I'm going to make. It says art became official history. This is going to be a whole lesson. Many, many lessons coming up. I'm going to make this out of a lesson because this is so heavy, it need to be expounded on. Art became official history. Famous European art, Michelangelo, David, Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, stained glass windows of cathedrals shaped public imaginations for centuries. Even though scholars knew the Israelites were a so-called Middle Eastern people, that's a new speak. They were so-called black people. The European images became the standard versions taught in churches, schools, and museums. So they know they lying to you, but they're going to do it anyway to bewitch you. Right here. Theology and control. Whitewashed images were part of controlling the narrative of the Bible. Adam and Eve. They gave you a story with Noah. That's how people see the Bible in their mind through these fucking movies and these books and what they've shown you, what their artwork. That's the reimagined version of what you see. That's why I say it's a great witchcraft on your mind. It's a great enchantment. It says listen up, Jake, by making the Hebrews and Jivas, which is true name is Yahweh, look European, look so-called white. It was easier to teach, colonize, or enslave people to worship a God that looked like their oppressors. It was a method to their madness. And they still use this to this very day to assert that control and dominance over you, and you don't know it. It says challenges and pushback. You're right. For a long time, very few people openly challenged this because church and academia were controlled by European institutions, and they still is. That's why they got seminary school that teach you what to think. They teach you the doctrine they want you to teach, and if you don't comply with that, you don't get your paperwork, right? But today, let's keep going. Let me right here. I read that first little paragraph. But today, more historians, theologians, and even some churches openly acknowledge the ancient Israelites were Afro-Asiatic, Shemitic. It ain't no such thing as Semitic, Shamitic, not with no E, Sham, Shamitic. People of color, not European. So that's a cut to all this madness. Let's keep going. I think that's it. Matter of fact, let me get into this. And that's that enchantment, that witchery, that witchcraft that's on our people's mind because of these images. See, you don't understand the vital role that these images played on your indoctrination, and they play today. The movies, the books, the literature, you know what I'm saying? It says enchanted. They placed under a spell. So when somebody still sees so-called white jivas in their mind, they're under a spell. They don't know it. When they still see these see Salakia, see the Israelites, the so-called white people, they under a spell. They don't know it though. Let's go here. And the Bible is nothing but a war trophy for these devils. Go to this word, war trophy. And we are, they've got us captive. They got the real Israelites in captivity. And that's why no understanding, true understanding is coming out of the Bible besides to us through the Hebrew Israelites, because it's our book, it's our culture. We will understand it better than anybody. How you'll get somebody, like I gave an analogy about a lion. How can a hyena teach a lion how to be a lion? You don't go straight to the source. You can go to the lion. We, the Hebrew Israelites, this is our culture that everybody has stolen and repackaged and gave you narratives. This, who would know better than anybody? We would. It says a war trophy is an item, such as a weapon, and the Bible is a weapon. It's been weaponized on you. You don't know it though. Flag or vehicle that a victorious individual or force takes from an enemy during warfare. So they took all our records, they renamed us. And this is part of all the curses, but the curses had to facilitate themselves in the flesh. They had to play out in real time. And they took our book, they stripped it, they changed words around, they added new definitions to existing words, they changed words out, they took words out, Salakia. They rearranged, things in the Bible. They took the Apocrypha out. They actually gave you a skewed understanding. They put images there, whitewashed images, so on and so forth. That's why so much confusion is on our people. They haven't been taught shit. Right here. And this is a weapon. The Bible was weaponized on you. It says whitewashing history. 1 second. It says whitewashing history is harmful to the mind because it denies marginalized communities their identity. They told you was black, Hispanic, and Native American. Invalidates their experiences and reinforces toxic racial hierarchies. Well, there you go. This, you know what I'm saying? This is the inside the mind, the psychology of what's going on in your mind. And you have to snap out of it. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh. Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rachak, Kodash. Shalom.